looks like one of the many protests against Israel's war on Gaza that have taken place across the United States since December. But when you take a closer look, these New Yorkers aren't just calling on Israel to stop the bombing or end the occupation. They're picketing Lev Leviv, Israel's top exporter of polished diamonds.
All your diamonds cannot hide! Your support for apartheid!
And they say they're part of a growing global movement for boycott, divestment, and sanctions.
All your diamonds cannot hide!
Rehan Barghouti is an organizer with the New York group Adallah, or Justice.
Well, boycott, divestment, sanctions was put forward by Palestinian civil society. So in 2005, in terms of a Palestinian strategy to respond to Israeli occupation and aggression, not only in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, but its violations of Palestinian rights inside Israel and against the Palestinian refugees.
Boycott, divest, sanction. It's a strong slogan, but what does it mean here on the ground? These activists from Adallah, New York, are focusing their boycott efforts on the Lev Leviv Diamond Boutique here on Madison Avenue. They're targeting Leviv because they say he's using African diamonds to build Israeli settlements on Palestinian lands. In the 16 months since they started boycotting Leviv, Adallah has managed to get charities Oxfam and UNICEF to disavow their ties to Leviv's philanthropic initiatives. It's a small victory compared to the $3 billion worth of aid the U.S. sends to Israel each year. Okay. Lev Leviv's company refused to speak with us. We'll have no answer from here. But Israel's Consul General, Asaf Sharif, was quick to condemn boycott attempts.
In the history we saw, this is exactly what the Nazis tried to do. If you talk about apartheid, there was signs that you cannot buy from stores of Jews. So we saw that in the past.
That's the card that gets pulled out when all else fails.
Bill Fletcher's a labor activist. He played a key role in the movement to get the U.S. to sanction apartheid South Africa. Now he's on the advisory board of the U.S. campaign to end the Israeli occupation.
You can talk about apartheid. You can talk about the assassinations that the Israeli Mossad carries out. You can talk about the number of truces that Israel has broken. All of these things, which in and of themselves should be enough to at least raise a question mark for people. And then, trump card, the Holocaust.
Katie Unger is a Jewish-American member of Adallah.
A lot of Jewish young people are brought up with a really unquestioning attitude toward Israel, and in fact a much less questioning attitude than that goes on in Israel itself.
Boycott activists often talk about the obstacles presented by the well-organized Israel lobby within the United States. But they face another challenge, too.
Arab Americans, Muslim Americans, are the community that is typically makes up the base of the pro-Palestinian community in this country, are still largely an immigrant community, and it's going to take a while before we start inserting ourselves into having a pervasive role in American society.
Divestment campaigns preceded this latest wave of boycott activity. Fadi Kilblawi began organizing to get his university to divest from companies with ties to Israel almost 8 years ago.
There has not been that many successes. There hasn't been that many progresses, but we have to think of things in the bigger picture. When we look, our paradigm for divestment is the South African model, the anti-apartheid movement against South Africa, and that took decades before universities eventually began divesting.
Now, pro-Palestine activity on campus is shifting. In January, a group of professors in California called on their universities to sever ties with Israeli academic institutions. Over 160 U.S. academics signed on.
I heard about what happened in San Francisco, and we are talking about 70 professors. We have more universities that in this month send students to Israel and send professors to Israel.
Organizers believe that the outrage inspired by Israel's war on Gaza is galvanizing the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement in the United States.
We saw with the recent attacks against Gaza renewed interest and anger by a number of activists that previously were not willing to consider boycott, divestment, sanctions. They felt that it was too extreme.
The momentum has pushed the boycott into a new realm: culture. A group in Pittsburgh asked Israel's Batsheva Dance Company to denounce the Israeli government's Gaza offensive, and it picketed its performance when it refused. Adallah also helped launch an expanded list of consumer boycott targets. among them Motorola, which develops bomb components and communications infrastructure used by the Israeli army.
I don't see the world stop using computers and cell phones. And if you think by not using computers or cell phones you're going to hurt us, I don't think it's going to happen.
Seasoned organizers like Bill Fletcher are cautious.
I think that the renewed interest in boycott, divestment, and sanctions is important and was certainly triggered by the Gaza atrocities. But I'm not sure that it's the situation there is enough to keep it going.
You're glitz, you're glam.
Now he says boycott organizers have to figure out how to transform that anger and outrage, particularly that of Arab and Muslim Americans, into a lasting political force. Josh Rushing, Al Jazeera, New York City.